There has been a significant increase in the number of third-party lens manufacturers making lenses for mirrorless cameras. There's a lot of them out there now. Some of them are pretty amazing. I think you might want to look at these, so let's talk about this. So yeah, the number of companies making lenses, third-party lenses for mirrorless cameras is just really kind of, I don't know, maybe exploded is not the word, but there's a lot of them. Some of them are doing an amazing job making some really unique lenses, and they're pretty cool. So most of these lenses are manual focus lenses, and that's where we're going to concentrate our discussion this morning. Some of these manufacturers also do make autofocus lenses, and they're a pretty good value too, but today I want to talk about the manual focus lenses and why you might want to consider getting these manual focus lenses for your mirrorless camera. And the first question probably a lot of people have is, why would I want to put a manual focus lens on my autofocus mirrorless camera? Why don't I just get autofocus lenses? And there's a number of reasons for that. I think one of the first ones is affordability. A lot of these manual focus lenses that are available are incredibly inexpensive. They're very affordable. And some of these manufacturers have some little higher end lenses that are somewhat more expensive, but still not near as expensive as, you know, the lenses you buy from your camera manufacturer. And then they also have lenses that some of them are, I mean, there's a lot of these lenses available for less than $100. I did a review on this TT Artisan 35mm f1.4 lens, $83 on Amazon. And I did a review on it a few weeks ago. It's a great lens. So affordability is probably one of the first reasons that people might consider doing this. You know, maybe you bought a mirrorless camera, it came with a kit lens or whatever, and then you start looking at other lenses that you might want to get maybe some prime lenses or whatever, and you want some that are kind of fast, and you just kind of look at the prices on those and go, holy cow, I'm going to be broke. And today, you know, with the inflation we have, just trying to save some money, and especially if this is a hobby, you know, do this kind of stuff and do it with a reasonable amount of money, this is a way to do it. And the quality of these lenses will surprise you. Again, if you watch the review I've done on a couple of these, you know, they're very good. I mean, they, in most cases, come very close to the quality you get from a primary manufacturer. I mean, they're not going to be in all ways, you know, quite as good, and of course they're not autofocus, most of them. There are some autofocus options, but for the most part they're extremely good, and in a lot of cases you won't be able to tell the difference in terms of image quality from your prime lens manufacturers. Now, so I know some people that shoot maybe some high-end lenses, or they shoot Zeiss, or they shoot Leica, or they, you know, whatever, maybe they're going to say, oh, you're kidding, there's no way. But in fact, some of these will surprise you how good they are. So the quality is really good. The other thing is, for your dollar, there's no way you can buy lenses as fast as some of these without spending just a lot more money. There's a lot of these lenses that are, you know, like f1.4, f1.2. There's even, you know, it used to be the old Canon 50mm 0.95 was considered, it's called the dream lens, because it was this huge lens with giant maximum aperture, and just there wasn't anything like it. And now there's a number of these manufacturers that are making lenses that fast, or even a little faster. I saw one the other day, I forget who the maker was, but the maximum aperture of 0.8. That's a pretty fast lens. How good are they at those maximum apertures? Well, that's something we have to research and see. You know, I've done some reviews. There are a lot of other people doing reviews on these on YouTube. So if you've got any particular lens you're looking at, you're curious about how good it might be, or how good the image quality is, you won't have any trouble finding a review on YouTube for those lenses, or you know, just on a web page in print. A lot of these are being reviewed, and largely they're getting very good reviews. Which is kind of the next thing, image quality. The image quality on these things is quite good. Like I said, I did this TT Artisan just a few weeks ago. You've probably, if you've watched my channel, you've seen some reviews on this SLR Magic 8mm f4. Really decent lens for the price. Now, the price on this has gone up. I think I bought this for $99 on sale a few years ago. They were normally about $150 then. Now I think they're about $199 now. But you do see sales on them every now and then. It's an 8mm f4 wide angle made for micro four thirds. So, and there's a lot of them. TT Artisan makes I think it's a 10 millimeter f2.8, I think it is, maybe 3.5, and it's less than $200. And you know, it's, again, very affordable lenses. I also did I may have to cover this one a little bit more in the future. I did a video a long time ago about pancake lenses and included this little lens from Makey. I think that's how you say it. Makey, it's M-E-I-K-E. And it's a very, very flat lens. It's 28 millimeter f2.8, and it is a very small lens, but it works nice on micro Four Thirds cameras. It's really compact. I bought another one of these initially that was the Optica brand. Exactly the same lens, but it had said Optica on it instead of Makey. So clearly some of these manufacturers, these names are made by one company and they rebrand them. But I gifted that other one to one of my granddaughters, and I liked the lens so much I bought the Makey version, you know, because it was available on Amazon. And it's an incredibly sharp lens. It's not super fast, f2.8, which isn't bad, but it's impressively sharp. This lens, really sharp. The only downside to this particular lens, and you can see how shallow it is on the front, is a little bit prone to lens flare, but I can put a lens hood on it, and I can help that significantly. So, you know, these lenses just offer a great value with good image quality, often large apertures, and very affordable prices. Another reason some people might choose to use manual focus lenses, and this applies also to like vintage lenses, like this old Pentax 15 millimeter f2, or you saw a review I did recently probably on this Jupiter 8. Some people like to use these manual lenses because they want more control. And just like some people like to manually set exposure, they want to set their own shutter speed, their own aperture, they don't want to use auto exposure of any kind, and they want to learn how to read the meter and make their settings and then fine-tune those settings based on the conditions. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I personally use some automation. I use aperture priority quite a bit, and then I use exposure compensation if I want to adjust. But there's a lot of people that like to manually set everything. They want to have that control. And for some of those people, being able to manually focus is also part of being in control of that whole image process. And they feel more a part of the image creation process than they would if they just let the camera do everything. And I can see that. You know, I grew up using film cameras that were manual and manual focus, manual exposure, manual everything. And you do become more part of the creative process, the image creation process, when you're having to take charge of all those things and do them. So some people like to use manual focus lenses just so that they have that control of exactly where the lens is focusing in the image. And in some ways, today's cameras, you know, they have focus peaking, they have focus magnifiers. Focus peaking on these Olympus cameras are just really amazing. I can, without having to move a focus spot around or do anything like that, I can simply turn on the focus peaking, press a button, it's real simple, adjust the focus of the lens and see where in the image it's focused exactly. And then take my picture. So if I want my, you know, the subject in focus that's maybe off center to be in focus without having to manually move around a focus zone or focus area, I can work pretty quickly doing that. And it's, you know, obviously if you're shooting sports or maybe even anything fast moving, kids in your yard or, you know, runway models or whatever, something that's fast moving, autofocus is probably going to be your best option. But for a lot of uses, things that aren't moving quite so fast, that manual focus gives you a lot of control. And so it's another reason that a lot of people like to use manual focus lenses. And that goes kind of hand in hand with vintage lenses. Now, some might ask, well, even as cheap as some of these lenses are, the vintage lenses, I can often get these for almost nothing at the thrift store or flea markets or whatever. Why wouldn't I just go that route? And you can. There's some great lenses to be had, and I've done reviews on a lot of lenses. But if you've watched those reviews, you've heard me say, oh, I had to clean this one or I had to lube that one. And sometimes there's some work to be done. And so a lot of people are afraid if they buy something online or if they go to the flea market or a thrift store and they find a lens, you know, it's gonna, maybe the focus is gonna be stiff or the aperture is not gonna work or the, you know, the blades are stuck or, you know, it's dirty inside or got fungus. There's all kinds of things that can actually go wrong with some of these older lenses. And so you have to be careful when you buy them if you're not wanting to have to deal with any of that. And realistically, if you don't know how or don't want to work on a lens and you find one that's got a problem, it's going to cost more than the lens is worth probably to have it repaired. So unless you're willing to learn how to do some of that yourself, it's just not cost effective. Where, you know, buying these lenses, they're going to be clean inside, the focus is going to work, aperture is going to work, they come with a warranty, and they're almost as inexpensive as some of these. I mean, some vintage lenses, especially if you're buying them online on eBay or other online sites, some of them are going for pretty high prices. They're pretty expensive. But a lot of these lenses, you know, in a lot of ways can match the price of some vintage lenses. One of the benefits of these also is a lot of them do have a vintage look to the image. A lot of them are reworks of vintage designs that they've, you know, kind of redone. One of the benefits of a lot of these lenses too is they're almost all multi-coated, so they've got better flare control than a lot of old vintage lenses. So if you're trying to keep flare under control, a lot of these new lenses, the manual focus lenses, kind of help with that. So, and there's just a huge selection of these lenses. Right now, I'm just going to kind of, I've got a list here. I'm going to read some of these, because I couldn't memorize all of them, names of some of these manufacturers. And there's some better than others, and some more expensive than others, some lower end than others. Obviously, if you're interested in a lens, you want to do some research. But, so there's, and pardon me if I mispronounce some of these names are a little bit odd. So there's Laowa, which is owned by Venus Optics, as I understand it. There's Astor Hori, which is a name that's I'm just starting to see now, but they were getting some good reviews. There's Seven Artisans. There's Meike, the people that make this lens. I think you can see how that's spelled up there. M-E-I-K-E. SLR Magic, people that make these. They make some really interesting lenses. Light Lens Lab. There's Yongnuo, Pergear, Viltrox, which is a name that's starting to really gain a lot of traction. Optica, Rokinon, and Brighton Star is one that is kind of coming up. One of the names that to me has seemed to really have risen to the top of the pile is TT Artisan. And like I said, I reviewed this lens just a couple weeks ago, or a few weeks ago. TT Artisan is making some really amazing lenses, not only for mirrorless cameras, they're also making lenses for M Leicas, and they even have one screw mount Leica lens, which is kind of surprising, a 28mm f5.6. So they're making some really unique stuff, and the quality, I mean, if I didn't know anything about photography and someone were to hand me this lens and say, yeah, this is from the 70s, it was really beautifully made, and I would feel the focus and the aperture and how smooth everything is, it's got that kind of quality. It's got that kind of feel of some of the old vintage lenses, how smooth they are. I mean, it's really beautifully made. The only lens I've ever seen too that has the formula printed on the outside of the barrel. I think that's kind of cool. You can see what the lens formula is. So anyway, those are some of the brands. There's, like I say, a number of them out there. And if you're looking at buying some of those lenses, I would start looking at TT Artisan. They're the company right now I'm kind of keeping an eye on, and I'm considering some of their other lenses. They have a 20, if you shoot micro four thirds, even if you shoot APS-C, but they've got a 23mm f1.4 that's getting some good reviews. Now that's kind of like a normal lens on micro four thirds, and I've got a 20mm f1.7, you know, Panasonic autofocus. So why would I want to do that? I really don't have a reason other than it's a cool lens, and I may just have to try it out. They also have a 25mm f2 that's got great reviews. They've got some longer lenses. They've got a 50mm, I think it's an f1.4, and again, I could say, well, I could buy a vintage 50mm f1.4. I've actually got a number of them, so I probably might not buy that unless there was some feature of that lens that was unique. But still, the quality of these is really great. The TT Artisan lenses come with a metal screw-on lens cap, which I know some people will say that's kind of clunky, a screw-on lens cap. If you watch my video on this, I've got a hood mated to it, and I just keep a lens hood on it when I'm out using it. I don't take the cap on and off. But anyway, so the quality of these is really impressive. And so if you haven't looked at these manual focus lenses for mirrorless cameras, might be something you want to kind of take a look at. There's a lot of options, a huge selection, and that selection is growing, and the quality of them is impressive. There's a lot of reviews being done, so it's not too hard to pick a lens and find a review on it and get some confidence that it's going to perform the way you want, or maybe even to learn that a lens you're interested in maybe is to be avoided. And there's also some lenses in all these. I heard of one per gear. I think it's a 25 millimeter f2, I think it is, or 25 millimeter f1.8 or f1.7. That they just per gear just redid it recently. And this per gear lens is kind of got a cult following that's kind of developing. A lot of people like the image quality. It's not, I mean, it's a good sharp lens, and in a lot of ways it's good, but it's also got some unique image characteristics that a lot of people really like in terms of the out of focus highlights, you know, the bokeh or other parts of the image. So it's gaining something of a following. So there's a lot of them out there that are just really fascinating. And you can add to your lens collection, have some really unique optics that are really capable of producing some great images without breaking the bank. I mean, you could probably buy, you know, 4 or 5, 6 lenses for what you might pay for one lens of, you know, the primary lens manufacturer for your camera. So there's a lot of great value to be had there, and I think they're definitely worth taking a look at. I love shooting manual focus vintage lenses, and yet these lenses are becoming fascinating to me because not only, you know, am I happy to shoot manual focus lenses, there's some really unique designs that are coming out that you can't really even duplicate in a vintage lens. Not inexpensively, anyway. Some of these, especially some of the fast ones, you would pay a lot more for a vintage lens. So, just so you know, these mount just like your regular lens. You know, they have lens mount, fits just like your regular lens. You do have to manually focus them. You have to manually set the aperture on them. I typically tend to use aperture priority with them, so I can choose an aperture on the lens. The camera will pick a shutter speed. And then I use I've got one of my dials set for focus compensation, so I can dial the exposure up or down if it looks like I need to do that. And so I can work pretty fast with these, and again, with focus peaking, doing the focus thing is no big deal. So anyway, that's some of my thoughts. I hope you find that interesting. If you're looking at adding to your lens collection and want to do it without breaking the bank, this is something to look at. So if you have any thoughts or questions, please don't hesitate to leave me a comment. I always love hearing from you. And as always, thanks for watching.